In June of 2011, Mercy Keino was just months away from graduating with a master's in communication studies from the University of Nairobi and marrying the love of her life. However, her life would be tragically cut short when she was invited by her aunt to an invite-only party in upscale apartments in Nairobi. At this party, she encountered the then Juja MP William Kabogo, who allegedly assaulted her severely. Hours later, Mercy was found dead under mysterious circumstances. So what happened to Mercy Keino and what was Kabogo's involvement? Welcome to Silent Shadows. As always, if you appreciate our true crime storytelling, support our bi-weekly series by liking and subscribing. Together, we uncover compelling tales of crimes and mysteries in Kenya and beyond, presenting well-balanced narratives that respect the victims and their loved ones. Mercy Keino was born on 27th October 1985 in Nandi County to a middle-class family. She was the firstborn daughter in a family of 3 children born to Joseph and Christine Keino. Mercy grew up in Nairobi, but she was exposed to the diverse and rich Kenyan cultures when her parents moved to Kamagambo in South Nyanza when she was young. It was there that she started her primary education. She later completed her primary education in a boarding school in Kisii, where she excelled in her KCPE and earned a place in the Kenya High School, one of the top girls' secondary schools in the country. Mercy continued to excel in her studies, and after completing her KCSE, she went on to join the University of Eastern Africa Baraton in Eldoret, where she pursued a Bachelor of Education. Mercy Keino graduated from the University of East Africa Baraton in Eldoret 4 years later, and her thirst for education was relentless as she joined the University of Nairobi shortly thereafter to pursue a Master's in Communication Studies at the university's School of Journalism. Mercy is described by those who knew her as kind, joyful, charming, smart, soft-spoken, and family-oriented. It is these qualities that captured the heart of Ronald Kemboi, known as Ronnie, who worked at the Kenya Revenue Authority. He fell madly in love with Mercy and proposed to her in March of 2010, and she said yes. The couple planned to settle down after Mercy's graduation, aiming to start a dream family with 2 children and ride off into the sunset together. In April of 2011, negotiations for the bride price took place between Mercy's and Ronnie's families, and they eagerly anticipated the couple's wedding in December of 2011. Mercy Keino seemingly had it all, looking forward to graduating with her master's degree in December of 2011 and marrying Ronnie in the same month. However, tragedy struck on Friday, 17th June 2011, when her life was abruptly and gruesomely cut short. On the fateful day, Friday, 7th June 2011, Mercy Keino's friend and distant aunt, Scholastica Namwaika member, called Mercy around 6:30 p.m. to invite her to an exclusive invite-only party hosted by one Maurice Mihango at Wasini Luxury Apartments on Church Road in Westlands. Scholastica had also been invited to this private party by her friend, only identified as Jackie, before extending the invite to Mercy Keino. Excited to be at the party, Scholastica and Mercy later met at Hurlingham, took a matatu, and they arrived at a petrol station in Westlands around 7 p.m. At the petrol station, Scholastica and Mercy Keino were met by Jackie and 2 other men. According to Scholastica's account of events, the 2 men took Scholastica's and Mercy's names, saying that they would need to present this information for the ladies to enter Wasini Luxury Apartments. Scholastica and Mercy were then ushered by the men to a waiting taxi, and they arrived at Wasini Apartments moments later. CCTV footage shows other party attendees trickling in from around 7:48 p.m. as seen here. And around an hour later, the party was hosting around 19 people, 15 women and 4 men. As the party got underway and the merrymaking started, Mercy, who was a light drinker, against her best judgment, ordered some wine and whiskey cocktails. Around 9:30 p.m., she texted her fiancé Ronnie, telling him that she would be leaving the party shortly. However, this would be the last time the 2 lovebirds spoke. After Mercy texted her fiancé, she continued making merry with other party attendees. However, the events that unfolded in the subsequent hours unfortunately left Mercy Keino dead. At around the same time, Mercy texted her fiancé Ronnie, 9:30 p.m. William Kabogo arrived at Wasini Apartments, where he claimed he was meeting one of his friends who was the party host. Once inside, according to Scholastica's account, Kabogo allegedly sat at a table with his friends, but later joined their table where Scholastica was seated with Mercy Keino and 4 other ladies, and brought them a bottle of whiskey, asking them to enjoy themselves since it was Friday. As the party continued, the majority of the attendees left, leaving Kabogo at the table with Mercy Keino, her aunt Scholastica Namwai, and Jackie, the lady who had invited them to the party. At around 1:23 a.m., Kabogo left the table together with Scholastica Namwai and Jackie and headed upstairs to one of the private apartments, which belonged to Kabogo's friend, Dipul Shah, as seen in this CCTV video. Suspiciously, Kabogo alleged that he went upstairs with the two ladies to finish their drinks. According to the caretaker of the apartments, Charles Macharia, Mercy Keino, who appeared to be drunk, was left at the table with Kabogo's bodyguards. It is unclear why Mercy was left behind, but it could be assumed that Jackie, Scholastica, and Kabogo had arrangements that Mercy perhaps did not want to be involved in. 19 minutes after she had been left alone with Kabogo's bodyguards, Mercy left the table where she was seated with them and went to the main bar area. This occurred around 1:42 a.m. The CCTV footage captured her walking towards the table where three men were seated enjoying their drinks. She started talking to one of them and flirting with him. Mercy pulled the guy as if wanting to go with him to where she was previously seated, where the party was happening. Unable to convince him, Mercy walked away the same way she came in, as seen in this video. Five minutes later, at 1:50 a.m., she returned to the same table. 2 minutes after that, at 1:52 a.m., Mercy left the bar area with a man, and it is unclear where they disappeared to, as also seen here. However, 15 minutes later, at 2:07 a.m., Mercy Keino re-entered the bar area and was seen jesting at one of the men she was with at the table. According to Leonard Beiro, the assistant head chef at Wasini, who was present during the incident, Mercy was overly drunk and started shouting at the man she had left with earlier. When Leonard asked her to stop making noise, she knocked down a chair, leaving the group in the bar area laughing as she exited the room, as also seen here. According to Leonard, Mercy continued to throw a fit, and things escalated when Mercy threw a glass at him, as seen here. This prompted him to call security, and around 2:16 a.m., the security guard tried to throw Mercy Keino out, and he can be seen together with one of the waiters from the bar area, roughing her up here. At this point, the caretaker called the apartment where Kabogo was with Mercy Keino's aunt Scholastica and Jackie, letting them know that Mercy Keino was getting out of hand. Following this, Scholastica can be seen on the CCTV cameras rushing down the stairs at around 2:28 a.m. to go pick up Mercy. Consequently, Scholastica and another man can be seen at 2:30 a.m. bringing Mercy, who was seemingly drunk, to the apartment where Scholastica, Jackie, and Kabogo were. After 15 minutes, the apartment's caretaker, Mr. Charles Macharia, said he heard commotion and screaming from the apartment where Kabogo was with the three girls. Together with Kabogo's bodyguards and other staff at the luxury apartments, they rushed to the apartment to see what was happening, as seen in this CCTV footage. Upon getting to the apartment, Charles alleges that he found Mercy lying on the floor crying, with Kabogo slapping and kicking her, asking who had brought her to the party. Scholastica and Jackie were allegedly screaming for him to stop. Charles said that he begged Kabogo to stop hitting Mercy, but also noticed that Mercy was bleeding from her lip and had blood on her clothes. When he asked Kabogo what had happened, he told him that Mercy had hit herself on the wall. Kabogo also claimed Mercy had become disorderly and had started breaking glasses and throwing photo frames around. Following this, Charles alleges that Kabogo gave his bodyguard some money and asked them to take Mercy Keino downstairs and grab her taxi to get her home. At 2:47 a.m., Kabogo's bodyguards and one security guard at Wasini are captured dragging Mercy down the stairs, as seen here. From the video, it is also evident that Mercy was disgruntled. Once at the parking lot, around 2:50 a.m., Mercy can be seen sitting on the ground, It was unclear if she was pushed or fell accidentally, but when she stands, she can be seen limping, possibly resulting from an injury from earlier when Kabogo was hitting her. She's also seen touching her face, possibly feeling the injury on her lip. Together with Kabogo's bodyguards and her aunt Scholastica, they headed to the gate. Outside the Wasini apartments, Mercy allegedly grabbed her bag from Scholastica, hit her, and said, "I will tell your mother what you do." Both Scholastica and one of Kabogo's bodyguards, Corporal Manuel Magalu, claimed that after this, Mercy took off and ran towards the Wayakiwe highway. Scholastica alleges that upon seeing Mercy take off, she asked Kabogo's bodyguards to help her bring her back, and the bodyguards agreed and went after Mercy. Upon getting to Wayakiwe, Mercy waved for a car driving by to stop. This car belonged to one Michael Njenga, who alleges that he was driving his nephew and girlfriend home after leaving the club when a lady wearing a dark spaghetti top and black pants ran towards the road waving for him to stop. Fearing for his safety, he did not stop and continued driving. A few minutes later, Kabogo's bodyguards, according to Corporal Manuel's account, alleged to have found Mercy Keino standing in the middle of the road, and they dragged her back to Wasini apartments. At the apartments, Scholastica and Kabogo's bodyguards alleged that the security denied Mercy entry. Scholastica maintains that she continued to try and calm down Mercy and even asked her for her phone to try and call her fiancé Ronnie to come pick her up, but Mercy refused. Scholastica further claims that Mercy shoved her aside and took off again towards Wayakiwe, and this was the last time they ever saw her. Consequently, Scholastica claims that she returned to the party, and when she asked Kabogo to ask his bodyguards to go help her find Mercy, he refused, saying that he was fed up with Mercy Keino's behavior. Scholastica further asserts that about an hour later the party ended and Kabogo asked her to board his pickup, and he later dropped her at the hostel at the Nairobi University. Upon getting to the hostel around 3:30 a.m., Scholastica called Mercy's fiancé Ronnie, letting him know that Mercy had been acting violently and had taken off from the party after being slapped by Kabogo. Ronnie then promised to look for Mercy when the sun was up, if by this time she had not made it back to her hostel. On the other side of town, Luciana Murioki had just received a call from her friend who was at Jacaranda Hotel, and Luciana left her house to go join her friend at the hotel. As Luciana drove in Wayakiwe and was nearing a turn branching off to the Jacaranda Hotel, she alleges that a dark-colored Mercedes-Benz with the number plate KBM 400H overtook her car with hazard lights on. It is at this point that Luciana claims to have seen human legs roll underneath the car, which to her was odd since she did not see the car hit someone. Luciana claims to have noted the car's number plate on her phone and reported the matter to the Parklands police station. A police officer named Thomas Obongi was the first responder to the scene at around 4:15 a.m. after he had received a radio call that there was a dead body near St. Mark's Church on Wayakiwe. When Thomas arrived at the scene, he said that he suspected foul play after examining the area. He noted that there was minimal blood at the scene, which was inconsistent with a hit-and-run accident. Additionally, Thomas noted that there were no belongings such as Mercy's purse and shoes at the scene. He also noted that the upper part of Mercy's skull was missing, and despite surveying the accident area and its surroundings, he could not find it. These factors made the officers suspect that Mercy had been killed elsewhere and dumped at the scene. Thomas then informed his superiors of his suspicions, and Mercy's body was then taken to the city mortuary. As morning came, Ronnie, Mercy's fiancé, and Scholastica got concerned when Mercy did not return to the hostel. The two searched for her at Wasini luxury apartments and 3 police stations before going to the city mortuary, where they sadly discovered Mercy deceased. With Mercy's grief-stricken family in search of answers, the police started investigating Mercy Keino's mysterious death. The police commenced their investigations by having a forensic autopsy conducted on Mercy's deceased body. The autopsy, conducted by government pathologist Johansen Oduro at the Montezuma Funeral Home, revealed multiple body fractures, a smashed skull, and high levels of alcohol in the deceased body, equivalent to 8 bottles of beer and 18 tots of whiskey. Additionally, the autopsy revealed that Mercy's spleen had significantly shrunk due to blood loss, a sign that she had lost a lot of blood. However, this was inconsistent with the alleged crime scene on Wayakiwe, where police found minimal blood. Unfortunately, due to the forensic pathologist's failure to visit the scene at Wayakiwe and Wasini apartments, challenges arose in establishing what had caused Mercy Keino's death. As a result, the pathologist was unable to determine if Mercy Keino was a victim of a hit-and-run accident on Wayakiwe or if she had been killed elsewhere and her body dumped on the road. Continuing the investigations, the police summoned the people present at the party to the Parklands police station to record statements and for interrogations. Kabogo and his bodyguards recorded their statements and were interrogated by the police on Sunday, 26 June 2011 at 12:45 p.m. at the Parklands police station. During the interrogations, Kabogo claimed to have met Mercy for the first time at the party and got into a physical altercation with her after she had drank too much. However, he claimed to not be responsible for her death. As the police continued the investigations, they actively looked for the owner of the dark Mercedes-Benz that was alleged to have dumped Mercy's body on Wayakiwe. The owner of the car, Wycliffe Okelo Lugwiri, popularly known as General Defao, turned himself in to the police at Parklands police station on Monday, 27 June 2011. Wycliffe denied hitting Mercy with his car or dumping her from it. He claimed on the fateful day, in the early hours of Saturday, 18th June 2011, the day of Mercy Keino's death, he was driving from Kangemi towards Nyayo Stadium when he saw a dead body on the road and swerved to avoid hitting it. Wycliffe further claimed he tried calling the police to report the incident, but they did not pick up. Wycliffe further maintained to have given the numbers of the friends he had been with that night to the police for them to verify his alibi, but it is unclear if they did. Forensic investigators proceeded to examine Wycliffe's car and did not find any traces of blood on or in it. Importantly, this could have been because he did not hit Mercy with his car or dumped her body from it. Or it could be that, since he turned himself in 9 days after Mercy's death, all the blood evidence had been washed from the car. Additionally, it is important to know that Wycliffe is not your typical upstanding citizen. He has had several run-ins with the law. For example, he served 3 years in jail from 2003 to 2006 for fraud and impersonation. Therefore, this could explain why he did not go to the police to report seeing Mercy's body on the road as he claimed, and also suggests that, being a convicted criminal, if he was involved in Mercy's death, he may know how to cover his tracks and evade law enforcement. On the same day, Monday, 27th June 2011, that Wycliffe, the Mercedes owner, surrendered himself to the police, is the same day Mercy Keino was laid to rest in her father's home in Keben, Soisot. During the funeral, Mercy's loved ones called for justice and speedy investigations into her mysterious death. Unfortunately, Mercy's family would never get closure as to what happened to their beloved daughter. The police bungled the investigation as the lead investigator, Japheth Mwangi, visited the scene where Mercy was found on Wednesday, 29th June 2011, which was 11 days after her gruesome death. Although the investigators collected dried blood samples from the scene where Mercy had been found on Wayakiwe, from the scene, they were unable to determine if Mercy had been hit by a car or if her dead body was dumped at the scene, since all the evidence had been lost due to their delays in going to the scene for forensic analysis. The investigator, Japheth Mwangi, also claimed to have not watched the CCTV footage from Wasini luxury apartments to see how Mercy's night unfolded on the day that she died. Mwangi also alleged that he could not interview the guards at Wasini luxury apartments since they had been transferred the day after Mercy Keino was found deceased on Wayaki Highway. Unfortunately, the police were unable to link Mercy's death to one person or a group of persons, and since her death was suspicious, the Director of Public Prosecution at the time, Kiraiko Tobiko, wrote a letter to the Nairobi Provincial Criminal Investigations Department boss, Peter Moinde, on 30th November 2011, directing for an inquest into Mercy's death to be opened and held at the Milimani Law Courts. On Wednesday, 5th September 2012, the inquest into Mercy Keino's death began at Milimani Law Courts before Principal Magistrate Peter Ndwiga. The inquest set out to call 47 witnesses to the stand, and here are the key highlights and unanswered questions. Senior Superintendent John Otieno told the inquest that the party was not a typical party, but from the investigations, it seemed like an escorting party of men who needed the company of young women. The senior superintendent went to tell the inquest that Jackie, who had called Scholastica to invite her to the party at Wasini Luxury Apartments, had even put up an advert online inviting young ladies to the party. This explains why there was a high number of women at the party compared to men. The superintendent further postulated that from the investigations they could not link Mercy's death to a single person or a group of individuals at the party. Therefore, since Mercy Keino was heavily intoxicated during the party, the most probable theory they had was that Mercy Keino had ran to a Yakiwe and had been hit by a speeding motorist. Additionally, the inquest established that it was indeed true that Mercy had had too much to drink that night and had become disorderly while she was left alone with Kabogo's bodyguards, while Kabogo went to a private apartment with Scholastica and Jackie. It is unclear why Mercy became disorderly at this point, but one assumption is that she realized the type of business her aunt Scholastica was into and she was not comfortable with it. The inquest further established that it was also indeed true that Kabogo slapped and beat Mercy severely to a point whereby she bled and started limping. Although Kabogo's bodyguards and Scholastica told the inquest that Mercy Keino took off into the night and wound up on Wayaki Highway, it is unclear why they did not chase after her. Given that she was drunk, there is no way she could outrun the bodyguards and Scholastica. On the other hand, the police officer Thomas Obongi, who was the first to report to the scene on Wayaki Way where Mercy's body was found, maintained in his testimony during the inquest that the scene was inconsistent with an accident since there wasn't a pool of blood and Mercy's belongings were not in the vicinity of the body. He also told the inquest that there was no way Mercy's body had been hit by several cars on the road since there were no traces of blood and ran over body parts on the road. Consequently, Thomas maintained that Mercy had been killed elsewhere and her body dumped on the road. Conversely, the government pathologist Johansen Odol told the inquest that it was challenging to ascertain if Mercy Keino died from a hit and run or if her body was dumped at the scene, since the pathologists were not able to visit the scene on Wayaki Way where Mercy's body had been found. For Kabogo, he told the inquest on Wednesday, 11 September 2013, that he had not gone to the party to have a good time, but to meet a friend. It is important to know that this was untrue as he was seen by witnesses and CCTV cameras having a good time. He also denied beating up Mercy by saying he slightly patted her on the face and shook her. He stated that the allegations that he assaulted Mercy were meant to damage his character. This was indeed a lie, since various witnesses did in fact testify to seeing Kabogo slapping and beating Mercy Keino severely to a point whereby she bled and started limping. You can get to hear Kabogo's testimony in this video.
There for say half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we joined the rest of the group that we were with, and we had ordered for dinner. And across two tables there were a couple of ladies, and asked them to join if they could. They agreed, and we sat with them with dinner and drinks until the rest was about. That she came across photo frames, pictures, and then I stood up and I got her by the shoulders and I shook her and asked her what's wrong with her, and she was like she had lost her.
When it came to the CCTV footage that could ascertain if Kabogo assaulted Mercy and what truly happened that night, the judge, Principal Magistrate Peter Ndwiga, discredited the authenticity of the CCTV footage presented in court during the inquest by the Criminal Investigation Division Officer Edward Kiptum. The judge discredited the CCTV footage on the grounds that it was incomplete. It only showed Mercy, Jackie and Scholastica arriving at the party but failed to show what had transpired during the rest of the night. The footage was also from 2 cameras, yet there were 6 cameras at the luxury apartments. The judge instructed for the missing footage to be added and for the CCTV footage to be presented afresh to the inquest. It is unclear why the CID would omit some of the footage that was critical to the investigations. Who are they trying to protect? Share your comments below as to what you think. After 4 grueling years, on Friday, 7th October 2016, Senior Principal Magistrate Peter Ndwiga at Kehancha Law Courts in Migori, where he had been transferred to, formally closed the inquest into Mercy Keino's death by stating that, after reviewing all the evidence presented to him during the inquest, there was no link between the evidence and the people mentioned in the case, including Honorable William Kabogo. The judge also said that the inquest could not establish how Mercy had met her death, and evidence showed that she was last seen rushing towards the Beziwayaki Way, and the possible cause of her death was a fatal hit-and-run road accident. We may never truly know what happened to Mercy Keino, but 3 theories might be true. Firstly, it could be that Mercy Keino wandered to Wayaki Way and was hit by a speeding motorist. But how come there wasn't blood at the scene where she was found? The second theory could be it was an accidental death resulting from being roughed up by Kabogo's bodyguards and security guards at Wazini luxury apartments. Thirdly, it could be that she threatened to expose the events of that night and was unalived. What do you think happened to Mercy Keino? Let us know in the comments below. One thing is clear, Mercy may have been hoodwinked into attending the party by her aunt Scholastica without knowing the exact details of what was going to happen at the party. Regardless, Scholastica failed Mercy by not keeping an eye on her and even taking her home. By inviting Mercy to that party and seeing how drunk she was morally responsible for her and her safety. We pray that Mercy's family will one day get closure on what happened to her, and we send our deepest condolences their way. May Mercy's soul continue to rest in eternal peace. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be notified of any new updates about the case. Until then, take care, stay safe, and always trust your gut.